There are many traditions in WoW that each expansion must include. A troll instance, a hemmit and nesingwary quest chain, a dragon boss, and the biggest of all, the poop quest. The poop quest is a series of quests that focus on poop and poop alone, and every expansion must have at least one. And today we're going to be going over all of the poop quests. Vanilla WoW started off with 2 quests, as Zarite, given by Lormorus Thalapides, the demon hunter in Azara, who sends you out to find a Shadowlands, which he later explains to you is the poop of the mountain giants. And Caught, given to the player by a dwarf locked inside an outhouse within the Syrian Gorge. He begs the player to bring him some silk cloth so that he can wipe his bum with rather expensive fabric, also asking you to kill some dark iron geologists in order to buy him time so he can finish up in the outhouse. Then with the Burning Crusade, we got 2 more. First is Shiz's work in the Hellfire Peninsula. Foreman Razoklas suspects that his shredded keys were eaten by one of the Fellhounds, and so he sends you off to kill some Fellboards and then feed them to his Fellhounds, so that you can then, of course, search through their poop for his keys. And lastly, a rare bean. Elementalist Lope in Nagrand has you go around finding piles of animal dung, and find the undigested berries within the dung. Then, he would convert these poopy berries into tablets, and then the player could dissolve those under their tongue in order to breathe underwater for a while. Needless to say, getting something that was in poop, then putting it in your mouth, even if it was cleaned, is peak comedy by Blizzard. Well done. Then with Wrath of the Lich King, we double the amount per expansion, this time with 4 separate poop quests. First, the funky fungi within the Ankh-Kahent the Old Kingdom. The player would need to find several revolting mushrooms, then bring them to Kilix the Unraveler, a Nerubian who you know would know about these mushrooms, and who would inform you that these were not mushrooms, they were in fact poop, and maybe the player should wash their hands, and in the future to keep any fungus that they might find inside the caves. Next is Lupus Pupus in the Boran Tundra. Iggy Tailspin Cogtoggle thinks that the wolves in the area might have eaten his microfilm, and so you need to place piles of spices on the ground to attract and extract the poop from the wolves to search for the film. To rub it in the player's face, he even mentions a machine that could help him with the dirty work, but he left it back on his airstrip, and heaven forbid he walk back to get it. Next, we have amber seeds in the Grizzly Hills at the Amberside Lodge. Alliance players would find a bucket of amber seeds and then eat them. Master Woodsman Anderhall would then inform you that you have eaten an entire harvest of magical seeds, and you need to do the right thing and, poop them out before they're fully digested. And in order to do that, you need to make a laxative. Then you go over to a local outhouse and watch your character do the deed for around 20 seconds before returning the seeds back to him. Afterwards, there's a little bit of dialogue with the questing NPC and the general goods vendor that implies this is not the first time they've had to do this. Lastly, for Wrath of the Lich King, we have Square the Guano out of them in the Howling Fjord. In Rivenwood, you are tasked with gathering bat guano used to make cluster bombs by engineer Fecknut, who is too scared of the bats to gather them himself. So you go and use firecrackers to scare the guano out of the bats, and then even use the guano cluster bombs later on in the daily to break some pirate blockades. Then in Cataclysm, with the total revamp of the old world, they decided to fill it with poop quests. This time a whopping 9 quests, so we need to speed this up a little bit. First is a delivery for Throgazog in the Burning Steppes, where they disguise the player to deliver spiked ward meat to the General Throgazog and his ogre army. Later, you'll find the ogre running away with his hands on his butt, so whatever you did to him seemed to have worked. Bravo Company Field Kit Camouflage in the Red Ridge Mountains has the player create camouflage for the Bravo Company, and so you gather leaves and fox poop, allowing you to stealth for the next 2 following quests by rubbing poopy leaves all over your body. Going Guano in Razor Fen Crawl, the guano from the local bats is sending the Quillboar into a frenzy, so Ald Stonespire asks you to gather some so that he can make a possible antidote. Illegible Orc letter in the Stone Talon Mountains appears when you find the letter. The letter smells horrid, and so you take it to Minx, who finds out the letter is written in Kodo poop and blood, although a letter from Horde High Command. In the outhouse in the Thousand Needles, after flooding of the Cataclysm, a man has found himself trapped inside of an outhouse, and so you need to grab a crowbar from some nearby pirates to break him free. Riding on in Durotar is rather tame, a simple travel quest. Partway, the wolves would stop for a few moments on the side of the road, before your ally, Raider Kerr, would comment, "What's that smell?" "Oh, bad dog." Stormpike Rendezvous in the Hillsbrad Foothills would send the player to learn about the Stormpike Rendezvous from Orcus, and Orcus informs you that he ate some Durgan's Kickin' Chimera chops and had some stomach issues that caused some loud issues and alerting the enemy to his location. And to save you on some of the details, things just did not turn out well for him. The turd problem in Stone Talon Mountains has Ghibli rackets and players to kill local wyverns as they've been leaving large turds all over the place, and he'd rather not be pooped on. The nearby enforcers even complain about it constantly. And lastly, the mysterious Zarite. As mentioned before, we were sent out to find mountain giants, who inform us that every 15 to 25 years they drop their waste, which mortals call Zarite. We are then asked to try and find methods to speed up the production of Zarite, but nothing works. Now onto Mista Pandaria, we drop down to only 5 poop quests, with the first being Greenish Energy in the Jade Forest. Rivet Clutch Pop asks the players to make methane grenades, which means going to Hosen outhouses and collecting deposits, then getting on a scat shooting vehicle to repel invading Jinyu forces. Materia Medica in the Krasarang Wilds. The guards at Zoo's Watch have a bad case of spooky dukes, and so Ken sends the players to get ingredients for an old Hosen remedy. Then giving it to a guard causes them to have a few issues, leading them to run to a nearby bush. The guard then commenting, "Ugh, what was that stuff? It went through me like bad tea." The next quest, a daily simply called Pooped, in the Jade Forest, has your serpent to hatchling leaving an accident all over the place, and well, you need to clean it up before the serpent masters find out. And lastly, Gourmet Kapha in the Kunlin Summit. Gootfur comes up with a Gourmet Kapha Goot, passing through goats first. However, the Kapha is far too potent, resulting in a horrid mess on the mountainside. You were then tasked with marking the piles with flags, so he can clean them up later. Although this is the first NPC so far in the history of Poop Quest to thankfully deal with the gross work themselves. Even saying, kind of messy task, not fit for a hero. Now onto Warlords of Draenor with only 3, one of them being one of the very first quests in the next expansion. Gunnar of the Frostwolves during the Assault in the Dark Portal scenario. You were sent to rescue Gunnar and find him being forced to shovel excrement from the outpost into a pool. Fruitful Ventures in Nagrand has a diagram ore bar asking the player to gather cherries to feed his Elec. While the quest itself does not include poop, it does make a reference to the A Rare Bean mentioned earlier on this list. Heard the worst rumor about how you had to obtain these things. Something about Talbuk first eating them and then processing them and then, well, I don't want to talk about it. Which is a nice little callback to the poop quest from Nagrand in the Burning Crusade. And lastly, Ruby's Rue. While not a quest, it was a treasure that included such. While searching Admiral Taylor's garrison, the player could find a ghostly perky pug named Ruby Rue. Giving him some ruby reets, he would go outside and deposit a pile of ruby rues, which had his collar and some garrison resources in it. Now onto Legion, all the way down to only 2 quests. A key is around here somewhere. A quest in Siramar given by Angus Stormbrew. Caught by the Legion, he had a key to break himself out, but a Fellhound ate it. So he then asked you to search through the piles of demonic waste nearby in order to find his key. A wee bit of cloth in Silithus, introduced of course after the stabbing of Silithus. You approach the outhouse in the Twilight Hammer camp to find Angus Stormbrew again, who is stuck in there having gone in for a wee drop-off, but there's no cloth to, so he sends you to find some Twilight Silk for him. And once he does finish up, he lights a match to deal with the fumes and in the process blows up the outhouse, running out unhurt but pantless. Now we move on to Battle for Azeroth with 4 quests. Foul Harvest in Voldun, an herbalist-only quest given by Patu, asking you to collect Akunda's bite seeds from the sun-baked dung piles, saying that only the seeds that have survived being eaten, digested, and pooped out will be able to survive Voldun's heat. Rodrigos Revenge in the Tierguard Sound has players get on Rodrigo's giant parrot and bombard the nearby Irontide raiders with poop to deter them from future threats against him. Swab This, a world quest in the Tierguard Sound, you mount up on a massive parrot and bombard them with bird poop. This is the same as Rodrigo's Revenge, but was just a world quest version available to both factions, because the other one was alliance only. Lastly, the quest Fertilizer Duty in Voldun. The player is sent to gather meat and then offer them to hyenas and then wait for them to leave drop-ins, to then pick them up and bring it back. This is also available as a world quest afterwards. And lastly, for Shadowlands. Now, how could there possibly be poop in the afterlife? Well, nature finds a way. There only being 1 poop quest, but to be fair, we still have more Shadowlands to come. Nothing goes to waste in Ardenwald. The Gormlings are industrious creatures. They love to eat everything and are, well, a great source of Gorm Grist, which they expel when they finish eating lots of stuff. And so a few have been growing Gorms like cattle and collecting their Gorm Grist, And so Master Shalar has you draw some baby gormlings from their pens to eat some wild seeds to grow, and well, produce more gormgris. The next quest, Collecting Day, having you actually collect the gormgris by encouraging them with a branch. And that's it for the poop quests so far. Blizzard has stuck to this tradition for good or bad, so there will be more in the future unless they just completely forget, which is unlikely.